There I am. Hello. Let's see. Let me just get back to this person, and then let me make sure I'm in the group. Tammy Lip is here. Hello. All right, I'm in the right group. Very important thing to check on since I run a lot of different groups. We are in week 3. Can you believe it? Kathryn's here. Hello. Do you like my owl cup? Okay. Isn't that groovy? Makes me feel wise. Okay, Pamela, you're here. That's all that matters. And Donald's here too. Fantastic. We have 2 gentlemen in the group now. Isn't that lovely? Donald, you're no longer alone. Does that feel nice? Although this is a welcoming space anyway. This is a genderless space. We're all working towards the same goal, regardless of gender. Let's see. So, here's how today's gonna go, okay? I am going to talk for a little bit. I'm going to discuss the energy of debt, what it is, why it's there, why it's been there in our lives since birth. Hi, Dina. Hi, Carolyn. And how do you get rid of it? So this is going to kind of take us on an arc, this talk. And believe me, I'm fully aware and cognizant of the fact that, can everyone hear me okay? I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Give me a heart or a thumbs up. Christine is here. Hello. I'm fully aware that this is not a comfortable subject. I'm fully aware that most of what we talk about in here and have talked about in here thus far, okay, good, thanks, Christine. What we've talked about in here thus far is not comfortable. I'm fully aware of how painful it can be to excavate this stuff and peel away these layers of resistance. But do you know why it's painful? Because we've built a lifetime of our identity. We've come into this 3D dimensional range of play already being conditioned for lack. And so then we've built a lifetime of similar points of, or similar levels of attraction. We've attracted more lack. We've attracted the idea that, you know, you can't get ahead, you can't have more, you're not worthy of having more, and if you do have more, you got to give it away, you got to pay taxes, you're not supposed to feel good about having it. We remember from being very, very little children, most of us, our parents fighting over money, our grandparents maybe even fighting over money. Hi, Tammy. So money for most of us has become a constant source of stress and strife, and we've largely built this identity, hi Allison, around this idea of lack. We've literally funneled the totality of our completely abundant and expanded experience, we've funneled it into this paradigm of lack. And we've created this identity for ourselves because of it. It's not real. It's not real. And that's why it's painful. It's painful in 2 ways, because we are coming to the realization that none of this was real and we did this to ourselves. We did. We may have been conditioned at a very early age for lack and been prepped to be in lack for our lives because of our parents' parents and what their parents told them. It's not their fault, you know. It's just been handed down. It's a legacy of lack. But we have chosen to corroborate that and validate that over and over and over again by choosing more lack, choosing to see more lack, feel more lack, think more lack, only see things in terms of the absence of something rather than the presence of something. It's purely conditioning, but it's conditioning that we've largely agreed upon over time and decided to create an identity and a persona around. But it's not real, because the idea of lack is not real. We live in an incredibly abundant universe. We have support everywhere you look, if that's your perspective. We have more than enough of everything that we need. We live in an abundant universe. We are having abundance literally as a soul being coming into incarnation in human form. We have abundance etched into our soul's blueprint. That is our natural state. So part of why it's so painful is because we're peeling away these layers that largely we have put there. And the other reason it's so painful is, and a lot of us don't want to admit this, and this is a really unpopular opinion, and I've made people cry when I've told them this, so, so strap in. Another reason why this is so painful is when we start peeling away these layers and we realize that we did this to ourselves, that we have denied our natural state of abundance to ourselves for so long and have lived in this voluntary state of grief, of loss, feeling this absence of abundance in our lives for so long, and we realize that we did that to ourselves. That's a very painful realization to make. We have grief in our heart. That's why we do energy healing in here. We have grief in our heart from this feeling of loss, from this feeling of absence, from this feeling of voluntary disconnection from the abundant soul being that we are, because we are divinity at our core. And the Great Depression in our recent family history, that's part of it, and I'm going to get into that a little bit here when I talk about debt. But I wanted to set the tone here for what I'm talking about, because I understand what you're going through, because every single thing that I am asking of you in this membership group, I have done myself. All of the layers I'm asking you to excavate and peel away, I have done it myself. I'm continuing to do it. All of the painful moments, the realizations, the epiphanies, the aha moments that are either painful or revelatory, I have been there too. So I feel you, I witness you, I see all of you doing this work, and I just want to tell you, and I'll never stop telling you, by the way, that I love you all. You are so incredibly powerful, and I see you showing up and doing this work, and I seriously get weepy. I'm getting weepy right now. Because I see that in you. What I saw in myself is this realization that I know there's something. I know that there's something better out there for me. I know it. And I'm doing all this work, and I'm showing up, and I'm thinking different thoughts, and I'm choosing different thought forms, and I'm feeling different feelings, and I'm thinking different things about my day. I'm framing my whole worldview every day differently. I'm taking different behaviors. So universal law dictates that it must change. And I see you all waking up to this, and I can't tell you how amazing it is and how powerful to have this container with us doing this work in here. And every single one of you are stepping up in your own way and doing this work, and you're doing this work. I see you all. And I'm very intuitively checked into what all of you are doing, by the way. And I see what you are doing. And I know what you're struggling with. And I just want to applaud you, and I want to celebrate you, and I want to tell you, keep going. Keep going. Because you think you're starting to see a trail of breadcrumbs now, just wait. Just wait. Because you keep doing the work. You keep showing up in this way and doing this work. Universal law says it must happen. Wealth will happen for you. More money will come to you. More support will come to you. You will have further and further expansive realizations of the fact that you are an abundant being living in an abundant environment that supports you. Okay? So there it is. Let me lift you up before we talk about debt, because it's really, really important. You saw the cookies I ate. Were they happy cookies? They have weed in them? Those are the cookies I like to eat. I'm kidding. All right. And the group is really warm and fuzzy. It totally is. Because like I said, when I set up this sacred container, and I had a vision of who was going to be in here, and I had a very clear idea of how I wanted you all to support each other, the kind of work I wanted to see you doing, and how you were going to be not only sharing your stories, sharing your revelations, but also sharing those hard moments, because that's helping someone else. I saw all of that, and I created this container to hold that space. And everything that I wanted it to be in here is happening. We're only 3 weeks in. So just imagine what we can do. All right, so the energy of debt. I know that's right. Exactly. Very happy cookies, Allison says. Tammy says, I know that's right. Yes, it is. It has to be. It must be. It must be. Okay? All right. So take a deep breath here, because yes, I am all love and light. That is true. But I live in this real world just like you do, and I pay taxes just like you do, and I have debt, and I have credit cards and loans just like you do. So we can't just go at this kind of thing with energy healing alone. We have to really unravel what we're working with here, and we got to be real about it, and we need to be awake to what is really going on here, okay? And those of you who've worked with me for a while, you know I don't throw softballs. I'm going to tell you how it is. But listen up. You might want to grab a pen. You might want to take notes. And I'm asking you, I'm petitioning you, I'm inviting you to listen with all parts of who you are. So get really present. Anywhere you've got the computer, I mean, you're obviously watching me on the computer, but you got something else going, like the TV's on in the background, or some exterior noise or whatever, or it's not quiet where you are. Optimize your space so you can really, really hear this, because I want you to hear it up here, but I want you to hear it here as well, okay? All right. So the energy of debt, and it very much is an energy, okay? So I'm just going to start off right away and say the system is rigged. The deck is stacked against us. Those of us who consider ourselves to be, you know, the common man and woman, the worker bee, right? It's designed, this system, this 3D system of the commercial transaction of wealth, which is a 3D game, and it is a 3D game, and I'm going to call it that a lot. Hey, Olivia. System is rigged. The deck is stacked against you. This is something that's been designed long, long ago and perpetuated because it works. It works to help concentrate wealth in higher percentages of the population who hold and control and dole out that wealth. And it's designed to keep the power at the top, and it works very, very well to keep the common man and woman in line. It works very well because this system, which was designed long ago, and Kathryn brought this up the other day, this has been in place since Atlantis, in which it really has. It's designed to, this system, designed to make us feel like, okay, well, we show up, we do this work, our reward is to get a paycheck, maybe to get a raise here and there, maybe to get commission, but we're only given just enough, so that we'll never really truly rise to the top. And this is in the 3D game system that I'm talking about, okay? We're given enough so that we have enough to just get by, to feel happy enough, to get those moments of elation. We get to take the kids on vacation, or you know, we get to buy that new wardrobe, or we get to have that experience, go get a massage, whatever that is. We're given just enough to not revolt. It's not enough that we can earn in this system so that we can rise to that top. So truly the way it's been for quite some time now, at least for the last 20 or 30 years, well, 40 years, there's around 1,000 families globally that own and distribute all the wealth, okay? Now think about that. Globally, there's about 1,000 families that own the top 1 to 2% concentration of all the wealth. These are the people that decide what the interest rates are, the rules of the banking system, the rules of commerce, the rules of trade, interest rates, the price of a house, that shirt, that sweater you're wearing, they decide on the price of that. This is a system not designed to support the common man, not to give us any kind of power, but to just give us just enough and kind of lull us into submission so that we don't revolt. And believe me, it's a very, very, very thin borderline, but it's been decided on by these families over at least the last 40 years. The families have changed, but not that much. How this wealth gets distributed as well, okay? They create the interest rates, they decide on prices for everything, okay? And your will, your energy, essentially, and your ability to wake up to this has to be stronger than this system that is oppressing you, okay? Including the empire of 2 of our recent presidents' families. Yes, absolutely. This system that is oppressing you is something you have to either wake up to. Well, you have to wake up to it, and that's what this talk is about. But you have to realize that you're not going to beat them at their own game, okay? But that you have been inducted into this system at birth and been conditioned in a certain way to just kind of accept it at face value, just like your parents did, just like their parents did, etc., etc., etc. We have to wake up to the fact that we are prey to a system that we had no say in designing, that it is meant to keep us powerless in their game, And I'm going to make the distinction on this in a little bit. We can't win at their game. It is not set up for us to rise up to their ranks playing this 3D game with money. It's just not, okay? But we don't want to play this game, really. We don't, and I'm going to tell you why that is. So the concentration of wealth, politics, the government, religious institutions, and doctrine that is imposed is designed to keep us thinking that we don't have any power, that we're not worthy of it. If we do have power, we're wrong, we're guilty, we're evil, okay? This is very much of their design as well, by the way. If we do have wealth, it's dirty, it's tainted, right? We have to give it all away. If we want to get wealthy, we have to struggle, right? We have to suffer, we have to sacrifice, work yourself to the bone for it. Retire when you're 75 or 80 because there's no Social Security. There just isn't enough. We're constantly being told there just isn't enough. There just isn't enough, which is all bullshit, by the way. It's all bullshit. There's plenty. There's plenty of money. Because believe me, when our governments run out, they just print more. And by the time we get through being brainwashed with all this stuff, and then, you know, all the stuff that we're growing up with our families, you know. Growing up in my family with my dad, it was very much a use it up and wear it out kind of mentality because he grew up in a Depression era mentality. And my grandmother, I mean, she was talk about repurposing. My grandmother was she was the queen of repurposing. She'd cook bacon every Saturday and then she'd make soap out of it. It was the best soap in the world, by the way. It would get anything out. It would get blood out of anything. But use it up and wear it out. A stitch in time saves 9. You know, a penny saved is a penny earned. And all that other bullshit that we had, you know, lobbed at us over and over and over as little kids, making us think constantly, there isn't enough, there isn't enough. Money doesn't grow on trees. How many times did we hear things like that? Give me a heart if you're with me and you grew up in that kind of environment, right? Constantly being told and having our beliefs validated from being told this over and over again that there just isn't enough. So by the time we get through being brainwashed by all this BS, we just figure, okay, oh well, you know, I guess this is my plight. So I even bother to like question it or think about it. What can I do to change this? And you just feel like, well, you know what, if I can just get through another day. Just get through another day, get through another week. Except that week stretches on into months and then years, and you've kissed your dreams goodbye because you've never questioned this. You've just accepted this system of money as your reality. You know, student loan debt, gonna have it, you know. It's just gotta be. I know that when I went to college, and I didn't want to go to college, but my dad was like, you're going to college. I was like, great, are you paying for it? No. I had to take out all kinds of student loans, and I don't have any kids, so I don't have any kids to hand those student loans down to. I'm just kidding. But racking up debt was just something that you saw your parents do it. You just reconciled yourself with the fact that this was going to be your life too. It was just the American way. And it very much is the American way, yes? Including the empire. Oh, you already wrote that comment. I'm not seeing the comments in real time, I don't think. Okay. And you think, you know, you're defeated by this, and you're defeated by this by the time you enter the workforce, by the way, which is incredibly disempowering. But that's exactly where they want you to be. This disempowered worker bee, because you know where all the concentration of wealth is really? The worker bees, those of us who are the common man, the common women who are the workforce. We are the driving force of wealth. We create the wealth. And they just take it all and concentrate it and dole it out amongst themselves, that 1% to 2%. School loans are good debt. Yeah. Yeah. Sure they are. And I'm not really talking about, when I talk about like massive debt here, and I'm not talking about having a mortgage on a house. I'm not necessarily talking about a loan on a car. I'm not even necessarily talking about student loans, unless you've taken out like the maximum amount, like some people do. I'm talking about the energy of debt in terms of frivolous spending, out of control spending, impulse spending, things like that, okay? Because we need a house, right? We need a car. You know, we got to play by the rules to a certain degree. But I'm talking about where it gets out of control, okay? Just to be clear. So we buy into this system because we've been inducted into it, and we've had conditioning and brainwashing, and by the time we enter the workforce, we already feel like, God, what can I do to change this? There's got to be a different way. You know, if I get this corporate job, I'll rise up to the top there and I'll make more money. No, you're still kind of the worker bee. And you're lulled into a different kind of submission then, because you're given a raise, and that makes you think that you can go out and buy the Lexus or the Audi and spend more than you earn, and then you end up in debt, usually early on, by the time you're in your 20s. It's staggering to read how much people in their early 20s are already in so much debt. Oh, I know, Allison. I know. I get the sarcasm. I know you speak fluent sarcasm, and so do I. So you enter this with this feeling of disempowerment. You enter the workforce, and you're like, okay, if I can just, all right, I'm just going to work really hard and just, I'll struggle and sacrifice, because that's what we're told, right? That's the only way to really make money, because you have to earn it. You have to sacrifice. You have to overcome something. It'll make you stronger. It'll make you a better person if you suffer and struggle and sacrifice. Well, you've been handed down all of these lies. Your parents believed it, your grandparents believed it, and now you believe it too. And you think, okay, well, if I just get through this day, if I just get through this week. But then those weeks stretch out into months, and those months stretch out into years, and you're kissing your dreams goodbye, and you're left with this constant nagging feeling of shoulda, coulda, woulda, should have tried something different. And what you could have done is now something that you're in your 50s or 60s, and you're like, how did that go by so fast? And I never really tried to get out of this. I never tried to think myself out of it or try something different. I just bought into the system. And then this shoulda, coulda, woulda haunts you. Okay? This is going to get more empowering, I promise. But this whole time, okay, we're buying into this illusion of being powerless. You're also searching for some illusion of comfort, right? So you're feeling powerless, but God, you know, there's got to be some payoff, you know, because there's got to be something that comforts me. Or can something come along and just kind of numb me out to all this stuff? Because this is really painful, okay? So you're searching for some sort of illusion of comfort, some sort of way to feel like, and I'm reading my notes here, so forgive me, because I frantically wrote this out in shorthand last night. You're also searching for, you know, some way to live out some modified, like heavily edited version of your big dream, okay? So you've learned to compromise, right? You've learned to sacrifice, because this is something that was impressed upon you from a very young age, right? So you're happy to even go for like some heavily edited version of your big dream. Like you'll take whatever you can get, right? Your dream business, your dream life, whatever that is, your big dream of success or happiness. So you start believing then what all the media is telling you. That's awesome, Susie. You're my hero. That's really great. That's really, really awesome. You are among the minority. So you start believing what all the media is telling you. That, hey, you know, you work so hard. Look how much you've sacrificed. Look how much you've given up. Look how you do those, you know, 50, 60-hour work weeks. You deserve on that Saturday to go out and buy yourself a Lexus, right? You deserve better. In fact, you deserve the best of everything. So go get that Lexus. Take that cruise. Go on that dream vacation. Get that $1 million house. And don't worry about how you're going to pay for it now. Pay for it later. Here we'll help you. Here you go. And before you know it, you're up to your eyeballs in debt, because you started drinking the Kool-Aid thinking that, no, it's okay to spend more than you earn. That's fine, because you can pay it off later. At 50% interest. But don't worry about that right now. Don't worry about that right now. Your credit's not so great, but we're going to give you this card anyway. You don't really have enough monthly income to pay that, but don't worry about that right now. We're going to give you this card anyway, okay? So you become prey to predatory lending practices. You're up to your eyeballs in debt because you spent years of your life spending more than you earn, and you owe it all back at 10 to 50% interest. That's sobering, isn't it? And this is most of the American economy. I don't know how it is in other countries. I'm guessing somewhere near the same. So do you see how the deck is stacked against you? And that it is a game, a deliberate game played against you, the common man, the common working woman, right? The worker bee, to keep you disempowered. If you choose to keep playing this game, if you choose to not wake up and see this game that is largely being played with you being a voluntary participant in it. The deck is stacked against you in this 3D game. You can't win at this game, okay? No matter how much you kick and scream and push against it or even revolt. Loan sharks, yes, yes. They're playing on your vulnerabilities, and they're playing on this idea of, especially here in America, we're constantly being told, and this is obviously where it reached its crescendo in the 80s, where there's so much overspending and so much of, you deserve to have it all. You got to have the best of everything. You had to have a Rolex. I don't think people care about Rolex watches anymore. I don't know what the big watch is now. You deserve to have the best car, a performance car, a Ferrari, a Maserati, an Audi, whatever. You need a Rolex. You have to have the best suits. You go get fitted in London for the best suits. You're a yuppie. All of these constant pieces of information being thrown at us all the time about, no, you deserve to have it all. You deserve the very best, and you're American. You're supposed to have the best. It was very weird. And it's still going on. It's just a little bit different. My multi-million-dollar startup company boss in San Francisco told me, I want to read your comment, and I lost it. My multi-million-dollar startup company boss in San Francisco told me that there are two types of workers: the people who generate money for the company or have the ideas, and they are the ones who will get the big salary. They might even be quite lazy, but they can bring in the money. Then there is everyone else. They are the support of the money generators. They work hard, but they aren't going to make it to the top. Nope. It's sobering. It's really sobering. Those of us who grew up idolizing the 80s vibe, yep. I've been down to zero debt twice in my life and ran it back up again inevitably. Me too, Tammy. Me too, Tammy Lip. So, take a deep breath. So here's where it gets a little more empowering, okay? And even if you don't have any debt right now, it's really important to make this distinction of, you can't win at this game, okay? But what we get to do is we get to design and play a whole new game, okay? So once we're awake to this stuff, okay, just after this talk today, you're going to start seeing things in your external environment that are going to validate a lot of things that I've said here, and you're going to be like, yep. And part of you is going to have that realization or be in that mode of like, it's just disgusting. I get mad and I try not to judge, but I can't help but see how blatant some of this is at sometimes, and how in your face it is, and how numb we are to it. We're so conditioned to seeing it all the time that we don't get outraged by it anymore. And that makes me upset too. We've lost our sensitivity to it. So hopefully this will be a little bit of a wake-up call for, those of us who are just kind of lulled into the submission of this system too. So how do you win? How do you win? How do you get out of and stay out of debt? You play a whole different game. You play a whole different game. What we're learning here in this group is how to play a different game. That's largely what this container is set up to help you do, to help us all do. What we're learning here in this group is how to play a different game where you can make money and learn to do it in a way that transcends all the belief systems of lack that were handed down to you by your parents. That literally, this legacy of lack, and their parents that had them send it down to them, right? We're doing so much clearing and healing and releasing in here of the old lack paradigms, and it's painful. It's painful for so many of us because we're literally coming to grips with the fact that we identify with this persona that has known lack. This persona that identifies herself, himself, with the absence of something rather than the abundance of something. Give me a heart if you agree with me, okay? It's painful to strip away the illusion of that. But once we start doing it, it becomes a little easier, yes? I mean, some of you who've been like nose to the grindstone with this work since day one, you're starting to realize that, okay, this is getting a little bit easier because I'm starting to see the bigger game at work here. I'm starting to see I'm pulling back the lens on all the moving parts and seeing how all this fits together, yes? So we're starting to kind of to see the illusion and understand, okay, well, it might have felt painful before to strip this away, and maybe it still feels a little painful right now, but it's okay. I want to do this. Because now we've seen so much, we can't fucking go back. Right? Once I really started waking up to this stuff, it was like, there's no turning back for me. Like, I'm totally awake to all this stuff now. I'm awake to where I've been implicit and literally volunteering to play along in this game. And I realized that I can say, no, I don't want to play this game. I want to play a different one. I want my own game, right? So once you wake up to this, you start peeling away those lack paradigms. Yes, it's painful because you are literally coming to grips with the fact that your identity has been built upon this foundation of lack mentality. And you learn through conditioning of someone else's design at first. And because you didn't know any different, you adopted this personality. It's kind of built in from birth, and you built it up even more by adding your own stuff on top of it because you're taught to just look out at the world laid in front of you and be the observer of even more lack. And once you're in that place of just being the observer of even more lack scarcity mentality, as you look out at what is, you're just proving to yourself over and over into the ego mind saying, see, it's just lack out there. You're proving the ego right so that it can keep telling you, yep, you're right, see, we're right. You're poor, you're powerless, you're unworthy of the good life. See? All you gotta do is look out at your world and there it is laid in front of you. And the ego gets to say, I'm right again. But this is all duality consciousness. This is all duality consciousness, which is one of the things I talked about at the very beginning in this course. And this is how we play a different game. This is only going to happen, you being in the observer mode and playing this 3D game, if you opt in for being the observer and being in duality consciousness. If you opt for singularity consciousness, knowing that you are one with abundance, that you are one with source, that you are one with more money, you are one with wealth, you are one with all of the good things that you equate with abundance in your life, you are adopting the unified field perspective of creator. This is an entirely different game, and I'm teaching you how to play this game in here. If we keep reflecting a vibration of lack into the void, never knowing or believing that we can choose to be creators of our reality instead of mere observers, we just get more of the same. Because universal law dictates that that is so. If you keep reflecting out lack from your internal state first, you will create more lack in your external environment. So if your ego is constantly telling you, see what's not here, see what you don't have, how much does it suck for you to not have this? You're going to feel this all day long. You are just reflecting and projecting and creating, more lack in your external environment. So of course you're going to look out and that's what you're going to see. And then it just gets reflected back inward. You feel even more powerless. You go down the rabbit hole even further with this feeling of lack. And it feels so big and colossal and overwhelming. You just want to give up and I'll just try to get through today. I don't want to think about this right now. I don't want to think about it right now. I'll just get through this week. If I just get through this week, it'll be fine. And then that week stretches out into months. And those months stretch out into years. And those years stretch out into decades. And you've given up on your dreams. You bought into the system. They won. So at the core of this game of disempowerment, because it very much is a game of disempowerment that we have here in 3D, there's never enough. You're never enough. There's manipulation, there's disenfranchisement, there's feelings of lack, blame, resentment, guilt, shame, embarrassment about how we feel about money, or decisions we've made, poor choices we've made around money, right? We look at that in the sabotages, we look at that in the exercises that we've done in here so far. All of it guaranteeing that you won't break out of the pack, which is exactly the point of this whole 3D game, is that you don't break out of the pack. You stay right in line. And you're thinking, believing, feeling anything different. If you start to do that, that means you're breaking out of the pack, buying into a different idea. Donald's story, his father's mother lived in a little apartment in Queens, New York, tiny, only eating American cheese and cabbage, no washing machine, nothing. At any restaurant, she would take the sugar or salt packets. When she died, she passed on millions of dollars to her children. She was so poor growing up that she was petrified to spend all the money she and her husband hoarded. And hoarding is a lack mentality. Absolutely. Those people that are hoarding they're in a constant low-grade anxiety and panic and fear that they're going to wake up and have nothing. And guess what the very, very wealthy, that concentration of wealth that I was talking about, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, they're hoarders. Those families that own all the wealth, they don't feel wealthy. They're buying into this game of lack just as much as you are. They think that they're in power, but they're actually operating from a lack mentality and a hoarding mentality. Think about that. So you've bought into this 3D game with this internal state. You're reflecting and vibrating it outwards so it becomes your external state. Largely, we're agreeing then on a collective level that this is our reality, that the reality that we see, that we all share, is one of lack, okay? And we're all trading on this external currency of lack. I came up with that. You're welcome. We're all trading on this external currency of lack, even the very wealthy. Because if we feel this way, think this way inside, universal law says it must be this way outside. Okay? And the very wealthy, these families with the extreme concentrations of wealth, they're trading on a currency of lack as well. If they weren't, they wouldn't feel the need to concentrate their wealth to such a degree. They wouldn't need to manipulate and control and have power over others. They're hoarding it. They're hoarding the wealth. Think of these people, and it's a really funny image, because when I nailed this idea last night, I thought of, that show Hoarders. It's on like the History Channel or the Learning Channel, and they always show the people that have boxes and boxes and boxes piled up in their living rooms, and they have just barely enough room to navigate a walkway to get to the bathroom or the kitchen or whatever. I go into panic attacks when I watch those people, because I freak out about hoarders. But there's something fascinating about them at the same time, so I watch the show. When I think of the very, very wealthy, I think of them as these people, because in their minds, it's the same setup. They literally can't get out of their own hoarding mentality of wealth enough to enjoy it. And if they were really enjoying it, they would distribute it in a way that was powerful. So they're hoarding it, which is completely of a lack mentality. There wouldn't be so much greed, manipulation, deception, secrecy, and blatant corruption if it was true, any other way. There wouldn't be so much corruption around money if they weren't hoarding it. If they weren't also trading on a currency of lack. So we create another game. We are creating another game. We are all in this group, in this wealth incubator that we've created, because that's very much what it is. That's what I've designed it to be, this wealth incubator. We are creating another game. We're all learning, we're all helping each other to create this other game. One that we can control, because we know that universal law dictates that what our primary vibration is in our internal state must be reflected in the external world. It becomes our reality. So that which we are, we attract. Universal law says it is so. And there are many universal laws other than the law of attraction that have this same setup of like attracts like, okay? We are what we attract. If you start thinking about money, that it always comes to you. It always comes to you when you need it. It's always there when you want it, okay? It always supports you. And you are forming questions that allow your subconscious to play along with this game too, to give it a better, higher job to do, essentially. That's what affirmations really do. They give the subconscious a better job to do than to keep asking you questions about why you're so poor. It is elevating your subconscious to use affirmations. You're essentially giving it an ascension upgrade. You're giving your subconscious a higher timeline to work with, okay? So you're forming questions that allows your subconscious to play along in this new game too, to give it a better job to do, which is to find new creative ways to show you just how abundant you already are. Because remember, affirmations aren't, when you ask the questions, it's not finding the answer. That's counterintuitive. Affirmations are assuming that the question you're asking is based on something that is already true. So what affirmations allow you to do from your internal state and project outwards is to find ways in your external environment to support the idea that this question you're asking is already true. You're giving the subconscious a higher energetic to work with. You're giving it a better job to do, essentially, okay? So instead of validating lack everywhere you look, you're giving the subconscious a higher job to do. And you feel good in this because you're consciously directing an elevated state. You're consciously directing an elevated state through having the subconscious help you, an elevated state of your choosing, okay? So you can think even better thoughts about money, all the new ways that you can give it a job to do, because if you give money a job to do, if you are calling it forth and know exactly how you're going to spend it, money is more likely to show up for you. This is true every single time. I've never found this to be not true. If you give it a job to do, to buy you a car, to help out a friend, to ease up your workload, to just give you that financial nest egg or that support so you can feel more financially secure than you ever have. So that allows you to spend more time with your friends and family, and that makes you feel good. And you have such a chronic, sustained, elevated state of safety, security, and well-being that you feel generous. And you want to spend it. You want to circulate it. Start thinking of money as not as spending it when it goes out from your energy. You are circulating it. So you're circulating it so your money is going out in positive ways. You're donating it to causes that you love. You're donating it to charities, to green companies. Maybe you're investing in green companies. I just invested in one in California. I'm really excited about that. So I feel like my money is going out from a good place and going to a good place to make things even better in the world. Your money's going out in positive ways. Maybe you're setting up scholarships. That's the next thing I want to do. I don't have kids, but I understand how difficult it was for me to go to college, to have money to go to school. So I want to set up a scholarship in perpetuity. So I'm working on that next. So you get to figure out all these wonderful ways that if you bring more money in for yourself, it's not greedy. And if you watched my live that I did about, your desires to create more money or whatever it is that you want flow from you. But when you attract the physical manifestations of those desires, they flow through you. Meaning, if you don't have a lack mentality, if you don't have a hoarding mentality, that money is just temporarily flowing through you, giving you what you need, but it lifts you up and expands you so much that you want to circulate that money back out into the environment, into the world, so that it can do something even better than what it just did for you. It helps you to make the world a better place, and that makes you feel even better. So now you're a money magnet. Because you feel really good about money. It shows up when you need it. It shows up when you want it. You're able to put it out and circulate it into the world to make the world a better place so you feel great. You're a money magnet because of that. Money is flowing to you with joy, and it easily flows out with gratitude from you because you know it will return. You know it will circulate back to you again because you are no longer framing your experience in a lack paradigm. And before you know it, more and more money is being circulated in our societies in a really positive way with a vibration of love and kindness and service and faith and gratitude and compassion attached to that. And if more and more people are playing this new game, which is the 5D game of money, by the way, we're using money as an energetic technology for elevating the ascension timeline for the planet. I promised you this was going to get more empowering, didn't I? And it all starts with you. It all starts with us in this group. Think about the fact, okay, there's 20 of us in here now, okay? 21 counting myself, I think. So think if this is the trajectory that we're all on. We agree as the collective in here to get rid of this lack mentality. We agree to stop playing this 3D game of this lack paradigm. We start waking up. We stop drinking the Kool-Aid. We stop getting ourselves in debt. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to tangibly work with that in a minute. We are serving the greater good by circulating money with a really powerful and positive energy attached to it, because it leaves us with gratitude, because we know when we circulate this money with gratitude and appreciation that we are money magnets, and it's just going to come right back to us whenever we need it or want it, because we have such a good relationship with money now, and we trust it and we love it. You know, we're being good money managers, we're being good stewards of our money, we're showing money how much we love it, how much good care we can take of it. We're being empowered enough to realize that the lack mentality is all bullshit. We get to choose a whole new reality and a whole new game to play. Now that's empowering. Why am I such a powerful money magnet? Exactly. Courtney says, feel much better. Okay. Yes, circulate. Circulate the money. You're not spending money, you're circulating it. Because that instills in you, and you could even affirm, why do I feel so good about circulating money? Because this takes out the idea that spending money has a finite destination. Spending money says it goes from here to there and that's the end of it. But if you're circulating it, it's kind of like this figure 8, where it goes out, it goes where it needs to be, and then it comes back to you because you have such a good relationship with money. So, I want to talk about a few ways that you can help look at your debts, and it's really important. That's why I put exercise 2 in here, because I really wanted you to look at your money situation. Because if you're not willing to look at your debt, if you're not willing to look at your money situation, that sends a very clear message to the universe that you're not a very good manager of money. Why would it want you to have more of it? Why, if you are afraid to look at money with the subconscious, allow more money to come in, because it thinks you can't handle what you already have. And your subconscious is wired to keep you safe. So why wouldn't it set up sabotages so literally that money doesn't come in? So think about that. So in the reading list, and I want to open this up for questions. So while I'm currently talking about ways that you can look at your debt and start clearing this and releasing some of the energy around the debt. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in here. Can we circulate money when we give a $20 to a homeless person? Or is that giving to lack? That's a really good question. I like to give a larger bill so they might feel empowered. It depends. I have really, really mixed feelings about giving money to homeless. When I was living in San Francisco, which has a huge homeless problem, by the way, huge, out of control homeless problem, I would often give food. Just because a lot of the people in the homeless community in San Francisco, I know that money would not go towards food. If I gave them money, it would usually go to drugs, because there's a lot of crystal meth amongst the homeless community in San Francisco, and a lot of boozing too. That's a good question. I think that's one that's answered internally. I don't know if I can answer that for you. I have very mixed feelings about it myself, to be totally honest. So, yeah, Tammy Lip says, me too, it's a double-edged sword. I felt more, it felt more loving for me, and this is just my perspective, if I went and got that person a sandwich and a bag of chips and was like, here you go. Because even if you don't eat it, they're going to give it to one of their friends. Somebody else is going to eat it, And that had more love attached to it to me, because if I gave money, the energy of doubt was attached to that money that I would give to them. So I didn't want to set them up with that energetic, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I stopped giving when the resident homeless guy in Lincoln, Nebraska bragged about making $80,000 a year sitting on the corner. Yeah, there is that too. There is that too. So it's a double-edged sword. What can I say? That's a tough question. That's not an easy question to answer. I have very mixed feelings about it. I would also go out, because I just had a lot of, from moving, I had a lot of stuff that I was always trying to get rid of, because I was always moving. Once a year, every year, for like 15 years I was moving. So I would often like give away blankets and coats to the homeless community. Like when I moved to Hawaii, I didn't need blankets or coats. So when I left San Francisco and moved to Hawaii, I gave a bunch of blankets and coats to the homeless center. So, and that made me feel good, because I know people were really going to use that, and it was something that was going to be of greater service than, let's just say, giving someone $20, if that makes sense. But it's, it's unique to everyone. Everybody's got different feelings about it. All right. So in the book, or the suggested reading, in the file section, I put in a book of E3. Let me see if I can find it. So this is a great book, because if you are still struggling with this idea of, experimenting with universal law of your internal state must reflect your external state, and vice versa. If you're still having trouble nailing a lot of this or proving it to yourself, I highly recommend one book that I put in the suggested reading called E3 by Pam Grout. So what these are kind of a series of fun experiments that you can do to talk about how the law of attraction works, how we are the creators of our reality, and how we play with the energy of, if you build a certain energy up in your internal state and you believe, it must show up and be reflected in your external environment. So if you don't believe what I'm saying, if you still haven't bought into this idea yet, if you're still not believing in the truth of this, read that book, because there's experiments that you can, these are just fun little experiments that you can do, and it's a fun book, and I'm all about learning this stuff with a sense of wonder and a childlike sense of play. So that is a book I highly recommend based on that. Being of service. What does this have to do with debt? Whether you have your own business or not, it is important to understand that we are the wielders. We are the molders of the clay, of the essence that creates form here in this reality. We mold the clay of essence into form here. We wield the energy. Energy works for us, not the other way around. We create the wealth, because money is just energy, okay? We are the worker bees, so if we opt out of this paradigm, this 3D game that I talked largely about today, by creating our own game, our own way to amass wealth to ourselves, the system has to change. And one of the ways we begin to do that is we start to look at how it is that we show up and serve every day, whether you have your own business or not. When I was a bartender, and I was a bartender for 25 years, I understood the magic of making tips, because I was willing to subjugate my ego for the sake of, if I was taking care of a guest, I subjugated my ego, meaning I let my ego go out of the situation. I'm not in service to you, I am serving you. What do you want? What can I get for you? How can I make your experience really special here today? Oh, you're in San Francisco, you want to see these sites? I've lived here for 20 years. I can tell you where to go. You should take this walk. You'll get the most amazing 360 view of the city. Like, all hands on deck kind of service. And you know why I made more tips than my coworkers? It's because I let go of my ego. I subjugated my ego, and I went from this place of, whereas my other bartenders were feeling like they were in a place of servitude, meaning they resented having to be in service to that guest, and they looked at the money that they got from that guest in terms of tips, if they got tips. Some of them didn't because they had a shitty attitude. I'm just going to say it. They didn't know how to be of service. And they just thought, I'm in servitude. Like, I'm stuck here. I have to deal with this person. Well, if that's your attitude, you're not going to make any money because your internal state is creating something that corroborates that sense of lack or servitude out in your external environment. And do you think that people are pretty savvy energetically, like guests that you wait on, people that I would serve drinks to at the bar? They know if you're being shitty. They know if you don't care whether they could be there or not. But they also know when you are coming from a place of true service. When you are willing to subjugate your needs and your feelings for the needs of someone else in a space where you are sharing the best part of you to make sure that they have an entirely wonderful experience, what do you think that sets you up for? Success. Great tips. Repeat customers. I had people that, and this was in San Francisco in a bar that was like 50% tourists and 50% locals. I had people that would come back and visit me from Germany and Austria and ask for me by name. Because they were like, where's Kathryn? She was amazing last time. Where can we sit with her? Because I gave a shit, and more than giving a shit, I really wanted to make sure they had an amazing experience. I wanted them to come back and visit me at this bar, and I looked forward to hearing about their trip in San Francisco between the time that I got to see them again. I know their kids' names, right? There were local guests that I waited on that asked me to house sit for them after waiting on them 2 or 3 times. Because I came from a place of service, meaning I wanted to make sure that every single need that they had was met. And beyond the golden rule of, treat others like you would like to be treated, it's the platinum rule. Treating others the way they want to be treated. And understanding that distinction is very, very important because that removes the ego from you entirely. Because you're not thinking about you, you're thinking about them. And when you really serve from this place of heart and soul, where you really mean it, people get that. That raises the vibration of the collective. Believe me, it does. Okay? But on the other hand, if you're in this place of servitude, meaning if you show up in your job, it doesn't matter if you're a bartender or in hospitality or whatever you do in your business, if you show up in a place where you get up in the morning and you're dragging your feet and you're like, oh my God, I have three clients I got to do today. I have 4 meetings that I have to go to at work. Oh my God, I'm so over it. You are coming from a place of servitude, which is an entirely different perspective of ego. And when you serve from ego, you resent the needs of other people. And you don't want to be around the person that you have to serve. And you actually end up repelling money. And the whole idea about getting yourself out of debt is to attract more money. Yes? So you see how this all ties together? Being of service is incredibly important, okay? And the more of us show up and are really coming from this place of service where we subjugate the ego, we release ourselves from the ego stranglehold, where our needs are more important than the needs of others. And I'm not saying give away the farm here. Be kind, be gracious, be fun to be around. I can't tell you how many times, here in this town, there's just the worst service personnel ever. And coming from a long history of hospitality, this really frosts my husband and I, it frosts our asses like you would not believe, because he's also in hospitality. And just people could care less. They're over in the corner in the bar on their phone. And you could be the only person sitting at the bar at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And believe me, my husband and I we're fantastic tippers if the service is there. We could make your whole night because we like to drink. So we'll probably stay and have 2 or 3 drinks if we like you. But here's the thing. If you're over there on your phone and you're like, yeah, I see you. And I've had people just look over and just go back to what they're doing. I'm like, really? 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 You got no one at this bar. You could be making $100 just off of us today in this next hour and a half, 2 hours. But instead you're on your phone. That insincerity That lack of being of service is infectious. But you know what is also infectious? Being of service. It really serves to amplify the energetic of all the people around you, okay? And it allows you to create more money. Because if you're in this place of it just feels good and you're grateful to be in the presence of other people and being of service, you are naturally creating an internal vibrational state that just attracts more wealth and abundance to you, okay? What else did I want to say? So now we're waking up to all of this illusion, right? All of this illusion, we know more of the illusion of the limitation, the fears. We're seeing through all the illusion of this 3D game, which only has power over us if we let it, In other words, staying in the energy of lack, okay? We see where that's gotten us. We see now through waking up to how this serves a larger game being played that we had no energy or involvement in setting up, how disempowering or disfranchising this is, so we must create our own game. We're seeing now how using affirmations helps you bridge your belief gap. So if you are in that place of, well, I'm here and I'm seeing all this lack mentality and I know that I am holding on to all of these beliefs, these thought forms that program lack mentality and keep it going. So I'm waking up to that and I'm releasing that now. I'm getting rid of it now. But I'm still here and I want to get over there. You are in that belief gap, which is a sweet spot, because that means if you put the right tool or technology in place, you can close that belief gap so that you can get from here to over there, which is the attracting and pulling in the physical manifestation and receiving of your desires, okay? So using affirmations, and that's why that's this week's exercise, because this helps you close that belief gap from where you are to get you where you want to be, okay? When you are doing that and creating, let's just say, some affirmations around debt, why is it so, one of mine is, why is it so easy to pay my bills on time every month and slowly, consistently decrease my debt? Something like that. But you can create your own affirmation if you're really struggling with debt. And then another way to do that is that you have to take some behaviors then. You can't just affirm that. You must take some sort of proactive behavior that's in alignment with that affirmation. So don't spend more than you earn. I know this sounds really simplistic. This sounds really simple, but it's actually really, really powerful. That's why I have you look at your money and do your money tracking exercise and exercise 2. So if you've been dragging your feet on that, this is really important. Because if you really want to get out of debt and stay out of it, whittle down what you have. It's really important to know what you are making every month and what you are spending every month, and to make an adjustment so that you are spending more than you are spending less than you earn. Okay? Really simple, but incredibly powerful. And because a lot of us don't like to look at our numbers and we have a fear of numbers, we don't want to do that. See the commercial transactions that you engage in. Here's another thing. See the commercial transactions that you engage in. So anytime money is changing hands, anytime you're buying something, even with a credit card or with cash, see the money transactions that you engage in from a place of love and service and gratitude. Even when paying your credit card debt, this will really shift, because think of it this way. Your credit card has allowed you to have something you wanted or needed at one time that maybe you didn't have cash to pay for. And know that, so just being grateful for that, but knowing that having this credit card debt is now giving you the contrast to see where you need to make adjustments in your spending going forward. You wouldn't necessarily know that, or it wouldn't be so glaringly apparent if you didn't have this credit card debt to show you the contrast, if that makes sense, okay? So the better you are at looking at your money and being honest about what's there, and being honest about the fact that, okay, I am spending more than I earn, adjusting that, creating an affirmation to close that belief gap that you can do it. It's really, really powerful to help create shifts quickly, okay? This contrast then of having this credit card debt, it really allows you to be more prudent and make better choices with your money and your spending or your circulating of money in the future. And the better you are at being a good, this is a really important thing, so I want you to listen to this, please. The better you are at being a good steward or manager of your money, you are sending out a vibration that you can handle more coming to you. So if you've got blinders on to your debt, you've got blinders on to how much money you've got going out or circulating every month, how much money versus how much money you have coming in, and if you're not looking at your numbers, you're not looking at your checking account, you're not looking at your banking account, okay? You're not even looking at your credit card bills. They're still lying unopened on your kitchen table. You are sending a very clear message to the universe that I can't handle the money I have. I can't handle the financial responsibility I have right now. Why would the universe send you more? Okay? And it doesn't matter that you still have this debt. It matters about the energy that you have about the debt. Does that make sense? So if you have the energy of, I have this debt and it's out of control and it owns me, you're not going to attract more money. Otherwise, or the other option is to say, I have this debt. I am getting it under control. Every day I'm whittling away at this debt. Every day I'm looking at exactly what my responsibility is with this debt. I am taking behaviors, more positive, self-affirming, more prudent behaviors with my money decisions going forward. Then you are sending an energetic to the universe saying, more money, please. I can handle this. See, I'm showing up and doing this. Does that make sense? Give me a heart if this makes sense. Okay? And that is why so many people who are unwilling to talk about debt are suffering from debt and more debt over and over, because they're not willing to wake up to the larger game being played. They're not willing to look at their accounts. They're not willing to deal with their numbers. They're not willing to step up and take different behaviors that allow them to be more financially responsible with their money. So it just spirals downward from there. It can only spiral downward from there because you're operating from a perspective of lack with all of that. Okay. And here's one more thing. Be willing to look at your debt, see what it's costing you. Can you consolidate? Okay. Can you pay even one credit card off? Can you pay slightly more than the minimum on your credit card debts every month or on your loan or whatever? And it could be $5. Believe me, that racks up. It makes a difference. And it also shows up as a faster payoff to those who are looking at if you're applying for a loan that sees that you've made more than the minimum payments. This is really, really powerful. People look at that when they're deciding on whether they want to give you a mortgage or they want to give you a car loan or whatever, even a personal loan, okay? And here's another thing a lot of people don't think about that makes us feel like we are powerful, that we have money, that we are wealthy. Have cash on you at all times. Have cash on you at all times. Have cash in your wallet at all times. This is the one thing that my parents shared with me as a young person that made a shift in my life, and I forgot about it. And when I started doing this work again, I remembered how powerful it is to always have cash on hand in your wallet. Because then money seems real to you. And then it seems like, and you can play games with this money in your wallet, and it could be 20, 40 bucks, it could be $100, it could be 500 bucks. But it's this little game that you can play with yourself that I have cash literally in hand. I have cash in my wallet. I have cash on me. If I wanted to buy that, I could. If I wanted to buy that, I could do it right now. That makes you feel wealthy. You don't have to spend your money on that, but if you play this little game with yourself, it allows you to shift and change your internal state and say, if I wanted to buy that right now, I could. I could do it. That's a $60 bottle of perfume, and it's really nice, and I love it, and I could buy that right now if I wanted to, because I have the cash to do it. And it's not going to cost, that $60 bottle of perfume isn't going to cost you 120 bucks because your interest rates are so high on your credit card because that's what you bought it with. Does that make sense? And here's the other thing that you need to understand about cash. Liquidity is king. Liquidity is king. I'm going to say this last little thing, and I'll leave you with this, and then I'll answer more questions. Liquidity is king. So before the Great Depression, we had our banks being like 20% liquid. That means that there was, to every dollar, there was 20 cents in the bank to back up that dollar, okay? So, or gold bars or whatever that was. So after the Great Depression, it went down to about 12% liquidity in the banks, meaning cash on hand. So if you had a bunch of people rush the bank and want to make good on the deposits that they made and clean out their accounts, those banks were not 100% liquid, so that means that all the people that showed up to clean out their bank accounts would not have the money to do so. Okay, that's liquidity. Right now, I think it's about 8% in U.S. banks, liquidity. So literally, 92 cents on every dollar is not there, okay? They're relying on banknotes and transfer papers to show the availability of money in a bank. And this has been agreed upon by, all the banking systems that we would function this way. So every time you put a deposit in the bank, okay, that becomes a liability to the bank, meaning if you wanted to go in there tomorrow and pull that out, that money that you want might not be there, depending on how much it is, okay? And when they do pay out on that deposit, it becomes an asset. It becomes an asset in their books. So you have countries that are trillions of dollars in debt, U.S. being one of them. Many, many countries outside of the U.S., millions or even billions of dollars in debt. We're talking the trillions here in the U.S. Debt has become so normal that we've kind of mutually agreed upon, and it just kind of became this way collectively, that we agreed upon the fact that money doesn't have to be real. Money doesn't really have to be real. Once we got rid of the gold standard in 1946, basically we all agreed upon the fact that we no longer need to have gold in the banks to show that there is this much money there. We no longer needed to have a physical representation of money in the bank. So we agreed globally that we don't actually have to have actual real printed money or gold or silver or whatever it is that we decide on the agreed upon currency exchange. Don't actually have to have a physical representation of that to agree upon, okay, you have this much money. Corporations. Corporations are a great example of this. Most corporations are only about 50% liquid. The rest is all like notes and transfers and papers and, like IOUs basically. Basically, it's like IOUs. Did you ever write an IOU to someone? Did you ever put IOUs to yourself in your piggy bank when you were a kid? I did. So the more cash you have on hand, the more wealth you actually have. So if you can do transactions with, cash, maybe you do, let's just say you have a farmer's market booth, okay? Maybe you sell soaps or jewelries or something like that, and you agree to only exchange in cash, that's really powerful. Now, I'm not saying you go and take that cash and store it in your mattress, but I am saying you keep more of your cash on hand. And I'm going to give you another example. So I live in California, and we have a lot of people living beyond their means here. So it is often the case, I have to go into low power mode pretty soon. It is often the case that we have a lot of foreclosed homes, and banks will buy up, let's just say, a block of foreclosed homes. This happened not that long ago in a city that went bankrupt, which is Stockton, California. The city went bankrupt. There were blocks and blocks of homes that were owned by the bank because the bank foreclosed on the homes and they owned the property deeds and they owned the deeds on the homes. So they would do these foreclosure auctions. So the people on hand who, showed up to this auction, the people who had cash in hand, some of them bought these multi-million-dollar houses in California because if you don't know anything about the price of housing in California, it's ridiculous. It's obscene. It's obscene. And this is in Stockton, which is not a great area or part of California, but we're talking about multi-million-dollar homes that some of them went for $4,000. And they went to that person who had cash in hand to say, here you go, give me the deed. Here's $4,000. That's incredibly insane. So cash is king, liquidity is king. Think about that. Think about that. And if you want to know more about liquidity, read about it. There's plenty of information about it and how we are coming to this liquidity crunch in this country. Meaning, we've got Peter borrowing to pay Paul. Can anyone else who has a biblical background? Borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, something to that effect. That's basically our banking system. We loan millions and billions of dollars to different countries, knowing that they're going to default on those loans. We loan out to big corporations, knowing we're never going to see that money back. And those of us who are the worker bees, who have our money in the bank, we're going to suffer for it. And we're going to get taxed on it, and we are, paying basically for the deficit. Have more cash on hand. Think about the power of that. Think about the power of being in debt versus not being in debt. Being able to pay for something right now versus later. And what comes with that. And that idea of, if I pay for something later, I'm buying back into that lack paradigm. Okay, and I'm not saying don't have a credit card. I'm not saying don't have a loan. But be responsible. Be fiscally responsible. And show up and be a good steward of those loans or those credit cards and pay them off as quickly as you can, because that allows you to opt out of that game. Or be smart like Susie in here and not have a credit card at all. So I'm going to run out of juice in my phone, and we've gone about an hour and 15 minutes. We have higher rates, and it's most impossibly to pay off. Yeah. Here people are very much in debt. Yes. In Russia. Svetlana lives in Russia. Our loans are more to make living, and salaries are low. And it's a huge problem for the whole country. Yes. And there are many countries that this is a similar story. Absolutely. Yeah. The struggle is real. So you are in a unique position, Svetlana, because you have your own business. And the more you show up, and I know that you're doing this already, but the more that you show up and truly give of yourself of service, people are excited to give you money because you are really, really being of service. You are showing up with heart and soul and giving the best of what you have to offer because you believe in the success of that person, because you believe in the success of the offering, the training, the healing that you offer. You have confidence in what you bring forth. You're able to communicate that effectively. You're able to translate that from a vibrational point of attraction. People get that when they talk to you. You're able to show up and be of very, very high levels of service to that person because you subjugate your ego and you put their needs first, and you're going by the platinum rule, which is, how do I fulfill the needs that they want? Not the golden rule is treat others like I would want myself to be treated. You treat others like you want those other people to be treated. That's the platinum rule. That's what gives you the most money. That's what yields the highest results in terms of a financial exchange. And the more that we're doing that, the more that we're showing up that way, we are leading by example. So more people are jumping on this train. More people are playing the 5D game of money. And we are working collectively to elevate that ascension timeline for all humanity. This is how this stuff works. Okay? This talk is a game changer. Awesome. I totally see it now. Olivia says, we've normalized abuse and dysfunction in many areas of our life. Absolutely. And this shows up with money, debt, right? And all the disempowering feelings that go along with that. That's a form of abuse. And let's just say that if you continue to stay on in this paradigm, when you are awake to this, that's a form of self-abuse. If you agree to keep playing this game. I need a new game. We all need a new game. And we're all here because we are playing this new game. We're all playing this new game together. And we get to try it out here in this wealth incubator. This is our testing ground. This is our proving ground here, okay? I've stopped paying my debts about 5 years ago because I just couldn't go on in this mode, and I'm going bankrupt this November. It was uncomfortable and scary, but I went through it just to live my own life. I'm sorry that had to happen for you, Svetlana. And I know that it's a difficult decision to make, and you go into a lot of disempowering feelings about worth and value, but you have to understand that it is not a permanent situation. It is not a permanent situation, and you can work to get yourself out of it if you are agreeing to play a different game, okay? And it starts right now. It can change right now. It can all change right now. And if you want to talk to me more about that further one-on-one, please reach out to me. We can have a private call. I live on just cash without debt for 5 years already. That's awesome. Donald story. Yeah, okay. I think I read all these. Without loans, Svetlana says. Trading on the external currency of lack. Yep. I've never seen so much of base humanity when the patriarch dies and leaves the farm to his children. Yeah, and I talked about that before. Because that happened in my husband's family. And it's sickening. Yeah. Yep. Really, really awful to see all of the infighting, the arguments, disavowing each other, disinheriting family members, not even talking to people anymore, family members, and one of them dying without even saying goodbye. or trying to reconcile with the family members. I've seen that happen and play out all over money. They look like they're enjoying it from my view. Money just buys more expensive things to distract you. Damn, you like heroin. And it is. And what I talked about here before in the call is this idea of being lulled into submission from all of the mass media messages telling us that, like, oh, but look at you, you work so hard. And that other asshole got that promotion, you deserved it. You know what? You need to feel better. Go buy a round of drinks for everybody at the bar, and then when you're done, go buy yourself a Lexus. And you don't worry about how you pay that now. You pay it later, right? We numb ourselves out to the truth of what's really going on. All right. So my phone is about to run out of juice. So I hope that I left you in a more empowering state than when I began talking. And I really hope that you reflect on this and maybe even listen to this again. Or go back to parts that really stood out for you and listen to them again and tune into how you're feeling about them. And I highly recommend the E3 book that I mentioned because it allows you to be in more of a playful state with these concepts that I'm bringing forth here. And as we unravel some of this stuff and we keep peeling away the layers of resistance, I'm very aware of the fact that this puts us in a place where we feel raw and we feel a little bit vulnerable. So going into a place where you can kind of change the subject in a sense and change your vibration, it's really helpful for you to kind of get a different perspective of how this stuff works from a place of play, from a place of like a childlike sense of innocence and wonder where you're just playing. All right, everybody. Thank you for being so patient with this long call, and thank you for being so amazing and showing up and doing this work all the time. I am your biggest fan and cheerleader at this time. So, have a beautiful weekend. So much love and peace to you. Bye-bye.